Evening. Welcome to the forum for the Mayor and City Council for Camp Verde. My name is Liz Danbury. I'm a member of the board of the League of Women Voters of Greater Verde Valley. Our timekeeper this evening is Richard Kiesel from the League. I would like to thank the Camp Verde Chamber of Commerce for co-sponsoring this event, and I'd also like to thank Yavapai Broadcasting's Verde Valley Television broadcasting on Cable Channel 2 on Suddenlink and Cable 1 cable systems for covering the event, and the Camp Verde Unified School District for the use of this beautiful and spacious facility. The League of Women Voters is a trusted, nonpartisan political organization celebrating our 93rd birthday this year. The League encourages the public's informed and active participation in government. While we never endorse a candidate, we are directly involved in shaping public policy through studying important issues and using our positions to advocate for or against those issues at local, state, and national levels. Throughout our 93-year history, the League has been a voice for sound government practices. The League places an emphasis on voting and voter registration and is nonpartisan in presenting factual, unbiased information on candidates and the voting process. Once again, we do not support or oppose any candidates for any office. This evening, we will present forums for both the mayor and the city council candidates for Camp Verde. We're going to handle the mayoral candidates first, and that forum will last from 6 to 7:25. Then we'll take a 5-minute break and hold the forum for the city council candidates from 7:30 to 8:30. The candidates we have for mayor are incumbent Bob Burnside and Charles German. The format that we're going to follow this evening is each candidate is going to have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Then each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to a question that the League has provided to them in advance. After that, we will take audience questions on note cards, and the candidates will have 1 minute to answer those questions. The candidates will close with 2-minute final statements. Our timekeeper is going to give candidates warnings when they have a minute left, 30 seconds left, and when they have to stop. Cards will be distributed to the audience for your questions to the candidates and will be collected by League members. Please try to keep your questions succinct and pertinent to the office whose candidate you're asking. Questions may be to one candidate or to both. Questions of a personal nature or any attacks will not be asked. Actually, Charles German drew a lot and determined that Bob Burnside is going to speak first this evening. So you have 2 minutes, Mr. Burnside, for your opening statements.
Liz, I got to tell you, you're talking like you're in a barn. I put these hearing aids in so I could hear and I could see people and be used to their body language. I can't see anybody out there. So if I make a mistake, I tell you what, I don't know I make a mistake till the missus whops me when I get home. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I've been your mayor for 2 terms. My 2nd term will be up in June. It has been a wonderful experience. I have met a lot of you, and I have not met a lot of you. I've answered quite a few questions, and hopefully I've solved some problems for you. This is ultimately your decision. If the decision is made in my favor, this will be a milestone for the town of Camp Verde, and I don't know where we're at, because this will be the first time a mayor has been elected 3 years straight, 3 terms in a row. Carter Rogers served 2.5 terms, but 2 of them was elected. I would like to have that milestone. I think I can serve all of you well. You'll just have to look at what I've done, what I haven't done. And if I've, excuse me, if I've offended some of you, I'm sure I'll probably offend more of you. But when you try to spread visions and thoughts and decisions over a lot of people, you can't cover everybody. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. German.
Thank you. That's a hot mic. I appreciate what Bob just said, because it certainly is the voters who choose. And I would like to give a little bit of my background. The reason that I'm running is not because I have anything against Bob. I have just had many community members who have been after me since last May, and I respect them deeply. And they had asked me to toss my hat in the ring, and it got to the point where I finally told them, okay, I will seriously consider this. And as a result of that conversation, many conversations since, I decided, you know what, Camp Verde deserves a choice, and they can do that. And I think good governance comes through a distinct and clear choice. I'm sure that Bob and I will agree on a lot of issues. I know his love for Camp Verde is the same as mine. I think my background is somewhat different. I've served in the community. I've been on the school board. I was on the board when we built this facility and the middle school. I served as your fire chief, and we looked forward to where the fire department is today. Ultimately, no longer a volunteer fire department, but one that is paid, and we have people that have gone through our school system who are employed there. I've been in the background my background includes retail. It includes governmental positions. I've served on town council appointed, and I just would like to say I would appreciate your consideration for this very important office. And as a mayor, I am one of seven people who determine the future of Camp Verde. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll start with you this time. We have the question that was presented to you by the League in advance, which Mr. Burnside, I will bring over to you in a minute. Camp Verde, an independent city, is also an integral part of the Verde Valley as a whole. Please address an important regional issue, such as water, transportation, the economy, or housing, and discuss how Camp Verde could participate in easing or solving that problem. And you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I would have to say that Camp Verde is not an isolated community. We are a part of the Verde Valley. And as such, with the main artery of I-17 running north and south, transportation for anyone coming into the Verde Valley and traversing around has to be concerned about the roadways. I would say that the roadways, especially between here and Cottonwood, needs real attention. And I think that that's one of the major concerns, that when people come to the Verde Valley, they want to be able to get around conveniently, and they don't really care where the boundaries of the various communities are. They just want to be able to participate and enjoy all of the things that the Verde Valley presents itself to those that are visiting our communities. And also for work. I worked in Cottonwood, and I lived in Camp Verde. I know people that live in Camp Verde who work in Sedona. I know people in Sedona that live in Cottonwood and live in Camp Verde. So we can't remain an island, and I think the chamber director in Sedona hit it right on the head when she stated that Camp Verde, or all these communities, and Camp Verde in particular, no community is an island. And we have to live, and we are related in many ways through commerce and through living and commerce. So I think it's really important that we take into our discussion and planning how we get around this Verde Valley, this emerald, to the entertainment area of so many tourists that come into Camp Verde. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
Liz,
Burnside?
Thank you for the question so I could read it. I'm going to start at the bottom of the question. It says, discuss how Camp Verde could participate in easing or solving that problem. get along. We have had in the past a massive reputation of arguing with every community that is contiguous to us for whatever reason, whether we're jealous, wish we could do, wish we had. I think we've made quite a movement in the last few years of mending those problems and accepting what the other towns are doing and help promote what they're doing. And when I say promote, we all realize when you come down off of I-17, you start this Verde Valley in Camp Verde. They're already coming to us. They're coming through us. If we're going to always be the bad guys, they're going to go right straight through. But if the other communities recognize that we are wishful in their thoughts, we will prosper also. As far as the water issue is going to be around for many, many, many years. All of us need to be concerned on how to preserve and protect and not overlove it, the Verde River. But that is a major issue. Transportation, I was at a meeting at NACOG today. Our movement to get 260 widened is kind of on the back burner, but we will consistently grease the wheels to make it move forward. Housing will be an issue that will be ongoing for a long time because a lot of our residents will be losing homes, losing their jobs. What is affordable? Let's define affordable. A Lexus is affordable to some. I could not afford one. So once we define affordable housing, we will be better off. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now take written audience questions. Remember that questions may be addressed to one or both of the mayoral candidates, and cards are available from either Ruth or Janet, who are in the audience. And if you would like a card, raise your hand, and they will bring you a card and a pencil. It's possible that your exact question may not be asked because we don't want to be duplicative. Also remember that all the candidates will be offered an opportunity to answer any question. Along the same lines as the last question, we have someone who would like to know what your top priority is for Camp Verde. And we'll start with you, Mr. Burnside.
Top priority. Interesting question. I could say citizen involvement. You are the people that we serve. It's your money that we collect and we spend. That could be a top priority. Should a mayor have top priority on only that? A mayor should have a vision, excuse me, to always look a little bit to the future, understanding our needs, be there with it, but still have a vision and encourage council and staff and our town manager to look a little bit ahead.
Excuse
Thank
me.
you. With music, of course, we can always accomplish everything.
That's a top priority.
Yeah, turn your cell phone off.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. German.
My apologies, Bob.
Not a problem. I was done. That feller did it.
Yeah, I was reading the same thing. Well, I think one of the top priorities is, first of all, to realize that I'm one of 7. And I think that priority would fall naturally in getting to know my fellow colleagues that would be on council. And it's very important because they have their constituency as I do mine. And I think it's very important that we develop the vision. And I think that we hold each other accountable for looking down the road. Basically, that's what we did in the fire department. We planned a fire department that was going to serve the needs for the community for years to come. I think the other top priority is to keep analyzing what you're doing as a town government and see what is effective and what isn't. When I was with the fire department, I found that revenues weren't coming in to the school district. And I started examining the tax rolls, and we found houses. Stop.
Okay, thank you. Our next question will go to Mr. German, and it is, please discuss your thoughts on economic development for Camp Verde.
Economic development in Camp Verde is crucial, and I think any economic development within a community starts at and goes through planning and zoning and the permitting process. And if it is not user-friendly, and I don't say get rid of regulation, but if it is not reasonable and it inhibits the growth, people are going to go other places. And I know for a fact, I've personally seen that happen in Camp Verde. I understand that things are better, but they're not where they need to be. And I would think that that would be a prudent place to start in examining to see if that will encourage the economic growth other than just tourism.
Great. Mr. Burnside?
Thank you. Economic development. Does that mean some should make more than others? We've all been putting up with that. A mayor and the 6 council members of your town government position and job is to make procedures and policy. Staff to follow, the manager to hold them accountable. Tourism will be a great economic. We have spent a lot of money on it. I would like to see the economic development start moving towards more jobs. Make the phone call. Fry's, can you come over here? We have one shopping center. We have one grocery store. Do the initiatives to get us some jobs, some light manufacturing. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Burnside, I'm going to ask you to expound a little bit on that. What are the types of businesses or industries that you feel will do well in Camp Verde, and how do you plan on attracting them?
I'm sorry, ma'am. Before you start that, would you please read that again? Expound. I didn't. I warned you. I don't hear well in these barns.
I did promise I'd bring them to you.
Okay, that's all right. What are the type of businesses or industry that you feel be well placed in Camp Verde, and how do you plan on attracting them? Very good question. How do I plan? As Charlie stated, I is not a factor. 7 is the factor. A mayor cannot have an initiative. We've tried many different times. Different council members will want to do something. If they do not have the support, it will die immediately. Businesses is not a council's decision. Do we need a shoe store? You, the people, need to get to council, come to us and say, we need this. I would love to see our hunters come in and say, could you go out, Mr. Economic Development Director, and see if we can get some sporting events coming in, a sporting house? You, the people, need to tell the town government so they can work with staff to see what they can do to encourage these businesses to come. Either through some tax incentives, like Charlie said, planning and zoning. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Durbin?
Same
question.
Okay. Very good. I think that it's really important to have industry that's clean, because we have a sensitive environment, and anytime that there's a fire control burn or whatever up on the hill, it comes right down and follows the Verde River right where the housing is. But to give you an example, Quintus does a phenomenal business in polymers and developing items for businesses and other industries throughout the nation. And they bring money from outside and bring it to our community and provide jobs. I think it's really important to be able to utilize the town, the Chamber of Commerce, for example, because every business has contact with the people who purchase products from them. And it's really important to get the information from them as to what it is the citizens are looking for. And again, the economic developer, the Director of Economic Development in Camp Verde is here now. It's a fast 2 minutes.
Okay, we're just going to stay with you, Mr. German. Describe.
Hate to interrupt. He said a fast 2 minutes. I thought we were only working 1 minute.
Oh, I'm
Maybe
sorry.
Maybe that's what it is, 1 minute then. No wonder it's so fast. I've got it programmed for 2.
I may not have clarified that. I meant to have I meant them to be 1 minute answers.
Okay. I'll reset my brain watch here.
Sorry about that.
You gotta talk faster.
That's it.
The next question is, describe the most important issue that Camp Verde and the Yavapai Apache Nation is or shall be working on together, or should be working on together.
What she said.
Well, I think in concert as the economic development, I do know an area where there is a common roadway that is in our industrial area, that if the town and the tribe could get together and improve that, that would certainly make it more attractive to additional businesses coming into that particular area.
I know I'm a nuisance, Liz. But that's all right. Susie been putting up with it for years. Describe the most important issue.
No, I take no responsibility for handwriting.
And the Yavapai Apache Nation is or should be working on together. We're already doing it. We have reestablished a wonderful relationship. The consistency of all of us, town government, staff, and the citizens. They are the largest employer here. We appreciate that. We already have some IGAs and memorandums where they can utilize some of our roadways to extend their sewage lines, some gas lines. We also work with them when we need problems or we need help. They come and volunteer a lot of material, time, sometimes buses. They are a very, very good asset to this town.
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
I'll read the question, then I'll bring it to you.
Okay.
Please share your thoughts on the new state sales tax proposal.
Wow. The new sales tax? The new sales tax proposal. That is a broad question. Let me answer it this way. That construction sales tax is going to cost this town, as well as many other towns, a tremendous amount of money. I think that the state had an opportunity to erase an effect of what they started. The 65% has never and never will be a representation of 45 of the material that they're supposedly going to put a tax on. Any of you in construction knows it's normally 30, 30, 30. The other sales tax, as similar to the one that we just enacted, it's going to cost us more money. Some of it we need, some of it we ponder for the future, and as part of the maintenance. That is the best I can wrap around the sales tax issue. I wish it was more direct. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. German?
Well, I have to agree with Bob with much of what he said. I think it's just inconceivable to me of how our legislature so often forgets about those of us that are out here in the hinterland, so to speak, and it's almost like we don't have any input. I know that there were people that went down and it fell on deaf ears, but it will it will cost Camp Verde as well as the other communities in rural areas.
Okay, Mr. German, describe the role of the mayor and how do you work with your fellow council members?
I think the role of the mayor obviously is to conduct the meetings and to help plan those meetings, and effective, well-planned meetings usually end in good results. A lot of people don't understand that, and I think Bob and I both share this understanding, is that we are one of 7, and we are often the spokesperson for the community in special events and things like that. And the only time that any council member or mayor is actively participant as representing that office is whenever they've been directed by council to go and participate in a particular way, or once the gavel has dropped and then they are officially a council member or mayor during that meeting. After that, we are John Q. citizen. We will listen and take it back to council, but we have no special powers other than when we are collectively acting as mayor and council.
While you're walking here, Charlie, you are absolutely right. It takes 7 of us as a team to do that. Describe the role of manager and how would you work with your fellow council members? I think I've been doing a pretty fair job the last 2 terms. But let me share this with you, and I wrote this in, you probably already read it in the Bugle. It's asked similar to the same question. As I also said, a mayor is to look to visions and values, align your resources, you got to love the job, unify your stakeholders, and produce an outcome, because the results are increasingly the measure of leadership and success of the town. I will disagree with Charlie on one thing. Council members and the mayor at all times, in the public and out in the Verde region, or whether you're in Phoenix or at meetings, you are still a role model for the town of Camp Verde, and you need to at all times be privy of that and be conscious so you don't make a mistake, as some of us would love to do when we were just a private citizen. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Burnside, I will bring this to you.
Thank you.
Question, what do you do as mayor to protect the Verde River from Prescott using water from the big Chino Aquifer? Either building a pipeline or by letting developers put houses on top of the aquifer.
I suppose that's what you call a loaded gun, huh? What can you do as mayor to protect the Verde River from Prescott using? If I answer it straight and honest, as mayor, nothing. As a council member, yes, the council in its whole. But remember when I said that even though you're out in the public, you're not really representing Camp Verde, and that wasn't your intent, you're still there. So when you go to meetings, like there's a meeting tomorrow at WAC, it's called WAC, Water Advisory Commission. It's going to last from 8 to 4, pertaining to water issues. Always be informed the best you can. The numbers and the thoughts of them will overwhelm you. Always allow common sense to take place. That is the best I can say, but no, as mayor, one individual cannot do that. Only the council can do it.
Okay, Mr. German?
This comes back to where no community is an island, and that means that our collective voices, the Council of Cottonwood, Sedona, Clarkdale, and Camp Verde, need to take a political position and to be actively dealing with our representatives, because that's where those kinds of decisions are made. And I think it's really important to be able to have that relationship with those other communities in order to be able to activate something like that. I watched that happen in Chino as you did, as an audience, and many times it's just so frustrating that you wonder what more can be done. But politically, that's what you basically have to do to get involved as communities.
Thank you. Mr. German, Cottonwood and Sedona have public transport to help people get around without a vehicle. Do you think Camp Verde should have a transit program or work to expand a regional one?
You know, I think as gas prices continue to go through the roof, that becomes a much higher option of transportation publicly that will take people not only within the community but to other communities. I personally have seen that tried here in Camp Verde before town council at least twice, and in both cases it failed. So I'm not real sure as to what the solution would be to make it happen other than having additional riders. There's been some talk about utilizing the Yavapai Nation and their transportation and working something out, being able to transport people back. But basically it translates to the real need and whether or not people are still married to their vehicles and will give those up to support public transportation.
Thank you.
You ought to just move over here. Public transit, people get around without a vehicle. Do you think Camp Verde should have a transit program? Yes. Or working to expand it to a regional one? I'm not really in favor of a regional one. The town of Camp Verde is unique in itself. We already have a transit system, like she stated, in Sedona to Cottonwood. The town of Camp Verde had the opportunity to baggage up with them, and the council and the government at that time, whether it be through staff recommendation, money, or what it was, we chose, and we do not have it now. Charlie's right, we do have the opportunity with the Yavapai Apache Nation. They're looking into it. We would certainly be remiss if we don't partner up with them in some fashion. In our budget this year, you will see that we'll have put some money in at least to get a place to park a bus to drop people off. What it involves, people, is a need and a commitment. As Jesse Jones, our youngest council member, says, we need to commit to something. If the citizens say, I want a transit system, bring it to council and we can get the manager then, but you need to have the force of the citizens, because once you ask for something, something will go away. Thank you.
Thank you. Your next question is, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing the town government?
What do I see as the challenges?
Yes, the biggest challenges.
Wow. I wrote a deal on that once. The challenges: stop the negative perception, join together, work together, encourage people, and ask people, why are you going to Cottonwood? Well, because gas is cheaper. I do not have a shoe store. I do not have a sporting goods store. So the challenge then is to stay together, bring it back to council or economic development staff, and ask for these things. But the most important is the negative perception that government always knows best. You know best. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. German?
Could you read that question again? I think I may have misunderstood
What do you
that.
think are the biggest challenges facing Camp Verde?
Well, I think one of the major challenges, obviously, has to do with the economic development. And when businesses come here, and I know this from my past in retail, whenever a store comes into a community, they have to have a reasonable opportunity to have success. And time again, that looks at rooftops and whether people are coming in from surrounding areas, and given the choice of whether they build in Camp Verde or Cottonwood, and just plain sense of looking at it, where is most of the traffic and foot traffic for businesses? It's in Cottonwood. So they're going to increase their probability to be successful by going there, unless we counter that with some incentives and with a planning and zoning and permitting area that will take away a lot of that risk and improve that as they look to the future of where things are going to be built, and that's here in Camp Verde.
Okay. Your next question is, how can the town afford to take over the sanitary district, and are either one of you in favor of the takeover?
Do you want me to answer that one?
Yeah, you can go for it.
So the question is, how are we going to do it, and do I approve of it? Is that
Yep.
basically the question? How are we going to do it? Well, it's not like buying the water company. It's not going to cost us anything. We become a trusteeship. The money's already there from the people in the district. And let me define, the people in the district are paying their bills as a user. If you are tied to the city, to the sanitary district sewer lines, you are paying for processing that water. The other people that are also paying for the operation and the maintenance of that, it was the people that voted and said, yes, we feel this is an obligation that we could also help the district, and that is why they're paying it. I think that the sanitary district should be under the control of the town of Camp Verde, and don't use the word control as control. It will give us another tool to help our economic development. We have a lot of tourism. He said stop.
Mr. German?
That's what
Yes. I don't know that I can answer whether or not I could be in favor of it, because I don't live in the district, and I do not and cannot tell whether or not it's going to cost those people additional funds in order for that to happen. I will say this, that a town that wants economic growth and development, greater stability comes from the town operating municipalities than from volunteer organizations. And Camp Verde stepped up when the need was there, and we're not incorporated to satisfy that serious need, and that's hence why we have the current district and why we're in the dilemma now. But for the community, for down the road, as Bob says, the vision, I think greater stability comes for a community when it's run by a municipality. If that were not so, a lot of municipalities would not be in a sanitation district or sanitary business.
Thank you. And Mr. German, how would you as mayor work with our county supervisor, Tom Thurman?
Well, I think we would have hopefully some conversations about mutual interest in how Camp Verde can assist the county and the county can assist Camp Verde. But not only that, it has to come, as Bob has said and I've said, it's a vision of the council. And what are those issues that we need to talk to Mr. Thurman about as our supervisor, and that have common ground that would be a benefit to both of us. So I think it's really important to have a good line of communication to that office and to pursue that to its fullest benefits.
Thank you. Did you get the question, Mr. Burnside?
I had the real pleasure to get to know Tom Thurman real well. He volunteered to come out and help me when we both volunteered on Copper Canyon Trailhead. He ended up with 5 blisters on his hands. It just tickled the dickens out of me. He's a working fella, just taken over. We were at a NACOG meeting, and he asked 4 different questions pertaining to Camp Verde of NACOG about our HERF money, Highway 260, some of the sales tax. Tom, I believe, is picking up the reins, knows what he needs to do, and he will serve our community in his district as well as he has served the previous district. We're all equal. I honestly feel that.
Thank you. Both of these are kind of complicated questions, so I'm going to give you 2 minutes to answer them. Mr. German, you talk about incentives. Can you for business, can you describe what they are, please?
I don't know what the legal options are. Sometimes there are restrictions on what a town can do, but I do know that we've had businesses who relocated from one other community into our community, and there was a tax break on sales tax for a number of years, and those are the kinds of things that towns can do. I know that in Prescott Valley there is a business, a huge business, and the Prescott Valley City Council thought it was better to have the jobs, and so they, as I understand it, allowed that business to build on Prescott Valley property, and at no cost or low rent. There was an incentive for them to be able to do that, and those are the kinds of things that they thought that it was better to have the jobs and the families and the houses that came from those people coming and living and taking part in that business. So those are some of the things that I know about right now, but I'm sure there are probably other things that a town can legally do.
Mr. Burnside, that question was directed to Mr. German, but you're free to answer it if you would like.
Can you read that to me again?
Sure. What incentives for business can you describe, or would you propose?
An incentive for business coming to town of Camp Verde. I'd say the first thing, if we were going to go on that maneuver, you never want to give away the train. Is it really worth it? But our opportunity would be, let's go back and take a look at our model tax code that all of us cities go by. Are there some factors in there that we need to alleviate, take away, or adjust? Do we want to look at our fee schedules? When they want to come in and they want to do something, put on an event, that's going to help the economy. Incentives, can we provide land for them to build? We don't own enough land. We do not have that opportunity. Perhaps planning and zoning, there's not much that we can do other than to give them a one-stop in, out as quick as possible, realizing that you deal with the fire department, the health department, and a lot of other issues. But every time a building is built, if you degrade the building department's ability to go out and make certain that it is going to stand according to structure and to be built, you're going to end up in a lawsuit. A lot of lawsuits in this town in the past was created from that, where we were reluctant to abide by our rules, and therefore they got away with it. If you've got a rule, follow it. If you don't like the rule, get rid of it. Not all businesses do we want in the town of Camp Verde. We can't afford them. We couldn't afford a major solar that uses a tremendous amount of water. So we also have to be precious of what we can use and cannot use.
Okay, stay by your mic, Mr. Burnside, and I will bring this question over to you. You'll have 2 minutes. Education is a key to economic growth. What do you see as the relationship between the institutions of government and the institutions of education to make strong economic growth?
Wow. Education. I gotta read this one. What is this? Education is a key, I will agree with you, to economic growth. What do you see as a relationship between the misunderstanding of government and the education to make strong? I'm sorry, I cannot answer this question. Education is a key factor. We've known that. I've often said at some of the panels that I've had the pleasure of going, and when they start talking about when does education start, is it pre-kindergarten, is it 9 to 12? And I always raise my hand and say, you know what? It's from cradle to grave. We are constantly educating. I honestly do not know how to answer that question. To me, you're always learning what to do and what not to do. We learn from our mistakes. That's why we're all here. That's how we prosper, is learning from mistakes. I'm sorry, I cannot answer that.
Okay, want to take a shot, Mr. Burton? Mr. German?
Yes, I'm rereading this.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I've spent my life in education. I'm not sure my dilemma is I'm not sure whether you're talking about the relationship between the town and the school district, or whether you're just talking about the relationship of education and to the economic growth.
If the person who asked the question is comfortable answering that question, feel free. Okay, they're not.
Well, I'll take a stab at it. It's interesting that the reason I say that is because I've had a couple of school board members in other communities wanting to talk to me about that very issue. And it's whether, from what I'm gathering, and you probably are reading about it in Cottonwood Oak Creek School District, the way of funding education at a local level and the spending on the local level is not at a sustainable level. Most of the funding comes out of the state. And believe me, as you look at your property tax, you would think you're funding all of it, but we really aren't, but it's high. And the thing is that education is so crucial, and if that stumbles and falls and fails to be financed adequately and in a sustainable way, we're looking at massive problems because we have to have our educational institutions. I hope that answers in some way.
Thank you. And I like continuing with the 2 minutes. So, Mr. German, the next question is, if you were asked by someone visiting Camp Verde to describe your town, how would you describe it?
Well, I'd say, first of all, it's a very warm, loving community where you can be accepted as you come and walk down the streets. It's a rural community. It has traditions and history going way back. It's a pioneer community. I think it also demonstrates the independence that has been here, as Bob alluded to in his former remarks, that Camp Verde sometimes is too independent for its own good. You hear about Tombstone, a town too tough to die, and I've often said that Camp Verde is a town that is often too tough to live. We get into our own squabbles, and you can't get anything settled without letting blood. I think we've come past that point to a large degree, but I think it's a great community. When people are given a mission or a cause and they're explained how they can participate, the citizens jump right in and they get behind it. And that's the beauty of our community, that's been our history. I think that's one of the reasons why we have so many different entities. I can remember when we had a lighting district in town. There was a need for lighting. Guess what? Some citizens got together and formed a commission or a lighting improvement district, and were able to tax property tax in that district in order to have street lights in Camp Verde. So that's kind of been the history of Camp Verde. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Burnside?
I could probably answer that very short in less than the 2 minutes, and I think people have already said it, and I'll expand a little bit after that. We are a very laid-back community, and I believe that there was a lady, did some writings, and I think her name was Miss Dickinson, probably defined us the best. This probably isn't the correct verbiage, but you'll catch the idea. We ain't much for beauty, but we're damn sure stout. And that's what Camp Verde is built on. We are working people. We want what we want. We do not want our rights ran over. There is always a gray line, as in the Western communities. There's a certain line you do not cross. Same as going out in the wilderness, you see a campfire, you just don't ride up and get off on it. You ask to get off to sit at the campfire. But we're also very helpful. We've probably done, as Charlie says, a lot of barn raising, and we will continue to do a lot of barn raising. That is what this town is about. Susie and I have had the pleasure to live here since 1993. We are no ways close to being old-timers. We've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of the old-timers, to listen to their stories. And you know, whether it was a horse and buggy, the stories are the same. They had to go to the store. They lost their job, they went up and did a little mining. Whether you have a car, you lost a job. But you all work together and stay together, and we will all prosper with a positive, consistent attitude. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Burnside, we have a question directed to you, and that is, what kind of housing growth is being considered?
What kind of housing?
Housing growth.
What kind of housing growth is considered?
Yes.
Being considered?
Yes.
As mayor, don't have a clue, and I'll tell you why. Council receives packets through the Planning and Zoning Department. We're not involved in the daily works of what is going on. We do not know when a developer is coming in and asking for some plans and permits to build homes until they have cleared the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then they bring it to Town Council. And I believe that is the 3rd or 4th Wednesday of the month. Sometimes we do have some insider information. Unfortunately, I do not know of any housing coming, but I do know that on the next general session of council, we will be looking at tearing down 4 buildings because they're dilapidated, but not on growth. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Mr. German, did you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I wouldn't have anything.
Okay. We'll go to Mr. German. Do you support a community park?
I do support a community park. In fact, I was one of 2 members of the community that put forth an initiative before the town for a ballot issue that would put 1/4 cent sales tax for the ball fields and 1/4 cent for the library. And both of those, once they passed and were built, they would sunset, meaning they would go away for that 1/4 cent sales tax. And the voters voted it down. But that hasn't diminished my desire to see a park. And the ball fields, those were talked about when I first came here in 1951 and with a school. And as I was married and came back after serving in the military, and I found that as we started our family, we were inadequate with our ball fields for summer activities and for our children, our future of our communities. And we've always said that. My children are up and grown and are out of the Verde Valley, with the exception of my eldest son, who is back in the Verde Valley working. So I do support the park, and I would love to see that again. It comes in the whole long list of community desires that have been expressed to council.
Thank you. Mayor Burnside, do you
Oh, I think-
support a community park?
Yeah, I think 90% of the people out there know that I'm absolutely for the community park. Absolutely. Remember earlier I said that a mayor is one, you need 7 votes. Many times a council member could have a mission in their mind and be shut down by council and you cannot move forward. That has happened several times. Is it the government that is stopping it? We often wonder. Is it the money issue? I often wonder. Because I know the volunteer base, if we could just get into the park, do something. Remember when I mentioned Miss Jessie Jones, we need to make a commitment. If the citizens would come to council and say, we want to do something, let's get to do something. Do we need to always spend money? We, as the citizens of this town, paid for that. There is a lot of sweat equity out there that does not require to pay some engineer or consultant to tell us, oh, that ain't gonna work over there, is it? No, that's a no-brainer. All of us are full growed. All of us need to work for the community and for the kids and the adults. The community park is a facility for all the citizens, be it bike riding, hiking, stargazing, horse riding, arenas, the 4-H, as well as the tennis, football, soccer, and a lot of it does not always mean a tremendous amount of money to start. As I've always said, you got to take that first step. Let's do something. And I would really like to see us move forward on that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question for Mr. German. Have your health concerns been resolved?
Yes, I'm happy to say they have, and I've even lost some weight through the result of that. And thank you for asking.
Do we have any other questions? It looks like she's coming down the runway. Okay, I guess we're going to Mayor Burnside this time. What is the future of the fort and Camp Verde's relationship? And you can have 2 minutes if you'd like.
What is the future of the fort?
Yes.
What is the future of the fort? It's still there. It's going to be there. We're supporting. We're working with Arizona State Parks. We've just got through the year to year to year IGA with them. Now we've advanced to a 5-year IGA, and they're going to allow us to work with them and be able to put on some more events and use the facilities. Is it cost-free? No, it costs us money. Is it a long-standing check we have to consistently write? I don't think so. As we heard on this legislator that perhaps we'll get some heritage funds, perhaps we can get some relief, and perhaps we do not need to supplement them. But actually, the fort could be quite an attraction to bring in other jobs. And you say, how are you going to get a job? Because if you brought in a business that wanted to build and make, what's that word, not retroactive, them people that perform as it used to be in the old days, what's that word? Or guns, or tents. The opportunities are always there, but the fort's going to be there, and it's going to stay there. As long as we, if needed, supplement Arizona State Parks. If you walk away from it, it won't be there. And that would be sad. And I do not think the citizens of the town of Camp Verde will ever allow that to happen. We will stand behind. Remember, we're tough. We will stand behind our assets. That is not a liability. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Mr. Sherman?
Well, the fort goes deep into my roots because that was at one point in time privately owned, and the community citizens got together and brought it under an umbrella of their governance. And my mother worked with Virgie Boatman and I believe Mrs. Jordan as volunteers for a while up there, and they decided that that wasn't fair, so they started paying them something out of the admissions. And I can remember my mother coming home in the evenings or after late afternoons after they'd closed the fort, and she was so excited because they'd broken the $10 mark in that admission fees for that day, so she was really excited. She went on and became the first woman ranger for the Arizona State Park system, and I was quite proud of her for doing that. And so I have a long history and relationship with the fort, and it's as much of the history of Camp Verde as Camp Verde is. So it's an integral part of who we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? Okay, let's go to our closing statements. And if you'd like 3 minutes, go ahead and take it. We'll start with Mr. German this time.
Well, again, I would like to thank everyone that is involved in taping this and has put it on, especially to the League of Women Voters. And I appreciate you as an audience for taking your time and coming here tonight, even though it's going to be on cable. I appreciate the quality of your questions. I am pleased that I had an opportunity to hopefully answer your questions. My philosophy is that I will tell you I don't know if I don't know it, and if I can find out and I will get back to you. I would like to think over the years that I've lived in Camp Verde, my word means something. I stand for integrity. I love this community. I would be happy to serve once again in this special position. I think I bring skills to the table in being able to work with people, and especially with our council. I think I can work with everyone. The town manager, I believe I can work with him very well, as council as a group would direct. The mayor has special opportunities in developing and working with the manager in areas of preparation for the agendas and going through budgeting process with council. I think it's really important, but most of all is being able to listen to the citizens of the community and being able to respond to them and give them the reasons and help bring them, as diverse as we are, developing that common vision of who we can and who we are and where we want to be down the road, 5, 10, 15, even 20 years from now. And I've had a lot of experience in planning and looking down the road with a vision and listening to people as well. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and Lisa, I thank you for being moderator. And with that, I thank you. I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Mayor Burnside?
First off, order of business. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Running for mayor is an opportunity. You need respect at all times. Do you remember a few years back when the newspapers were plumb full of all kinds of unusual comments and actions? When you have a group of people working together, you can get away from that. If you can create the patience and you can have the ability to remain objective, and you will encourage a discussion You will always achieve a goal. Now that sounds like that written out of a book. But you know, if you stop and think at each particular phrase, that's what this is all about. Will I, as chairman of the council, do a better job than Charlie? Who knows? Does the mayor have all types of great things that he can do? No. If you read the town code, there's only one absolute that a mayor can do. And that's declare an emergency. What a no-brainer. The rest of the time, he has the availability to vote, to make motions, be an individual on an agenda item, express what his opinion is, listen to the other six, and when the call for the question is, and vote, have the availability to say, okay, that ain't really what I wanted, but I'll accept that and move on. Don't keep putting it down. I've mentioned feasibility. Our town government needs to have a feasibility of what is feasible. The citizens also needs to have a feasibility of what is feasible. We cannot, and you're not going to like this, but we cannot build a silk purse out of a sow's ear. We are limited. We will always be limited. But we can get the best for our buck if we work together and we utilize our money cautiously and to the benefit of all of us. I thank you. If you would vote for me, I'd greatly appreciate it. My wife wouldn't be too happy, but thank you.
Thank you, both of you.
Good job, Bob. Good job.
I know that we have one of our city council candidates in the audience. Have the other two arrived by any chance?
Let's get over here before we get
Okay, I think we're going to need to take a break until we have all our candidates here. Restrooms are right outside the door. Okay, we have 4 candidates running for 4 seats. They are the incumbents Jackie Baker, Jesse Jones, and Robin Watley. And we have our newcomer, Bradford Gordon. Jesse Jones is not able to be here tonight. I think it's important to point out that she's the only one of the 4 who's running for a 2-year seat. So she's actually a separate box on the ballot. We'll follow the same format as the mayoral forum. Each candidate is going to have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Then each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to a question which they received in advance from the league. And the candidates will then each have 1 minute to answer your written questions. The candidates will close with a 2-minute final statement. And our timekeeper, Richard Kiesel, is going to give you a minute warning, a 30-second warning, and hopefully he won't have to give you a stop. Cards are going to be distributed by league members. If you would like a card to ask a question, please raise your hand, and our league members will bring you a card and a pen. Why don't we begin with our opening statements? And we'll begin with Mr. Gordon, please.
Do you want me to start?
It's usually ladies first.
Oh, it's 2 minutes. Well, I went in alphabetical order, but if you prefer.
I'll go ahead and start.
Okay,
Mr. Gordon is new at this. We're going to cut him some slack.
okay, that's fair.
My opening statement, I'm a 30-year resident of Camp Verde. I was born in Prescott and raised in Chino Valley. Graduated from Prescott High School, and after many years later and 3 children, I decided to go back to college, graduated from Yavapai College, and then went on to Prescott College. In the meantime, I had that 4th surprise baby. So I received a Bachelor's of Arts degree at Prescott College and Montessori certification, and so I am a teacher. I do have a full-time job. I believe that it's important that the still working people of Camp Verde have a voice, just as I believe that Jessie Jones is a great addition to our council because she kind of represents the younger people who are raising children at home. I've been on town council for 4 years now. Previously, I was the chairman of the Parks and Rec Commission of the town. Before that, and my best qualification, I believe, for town council is I sat in the hard seats in the back for 3 years. I attended every council meeting that was scheduled except for 2. So I was there. I stood outside when they went into executive session. I waited till they got done, sometimes at 11 o'clock at night, and I had to go to school the next day. And so I was very devoted to being at the council meetings. So by the time I ran, I really knew what the issues were and the challenges that we had facing Camp Verde.
Thank you. Mr. Gordon?
Yes, I'm Bradford Gordon. My wife and I have lived in Camp Verde almost 2 years now.
If you want to speak a little closer to it, maybe.
Okay. We moved down from the valley, the Phoenix metropolitan area. We lived in Gilbert since 1984. My wife was an elementary school teacher, and when she retired, we moved up here. I owned a surveying and engineering firm in Scottsdale and sold it in 2001. And I sold some real estate for a while, and then with a partner who had a residential and commercial contractor's license, we did some small land development type things. And so I'm kind of retired, so or I'm starting to get a little bit bored. We bought a property here, and we gutted the thing and then redid it, and I'm all done with that now. So yeah, I've always had a feeling that I should put back to the community a little bit. I've been on a school board for 8 years and down in the valley for a charter school. Also was involved in Southwest Archaeology team in Mesa for several years. Also, when the kids were there, soccer and Cub Scouts and things like that. So I've always felt kind of a responsibility to give back to the community. So here I sit, and I hope that you will vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now go to the question that the league provided to you in advance, and we'll give you 2 minutes to answer that question. And I'm sorry, we're going to pick on you first, Mr. Gordon, this time. Camp Verde, an independent city, is also an integral part of the Verde Valley as a whole. Please address an important regional issue, such as water, transportation, the economy, or housing, and discuss how Camp Verde could participate in easing or solving that problem.
I wasn't given that
Oh, I'm sorry.
question before.
He was not given those questions, so if I could answer first, and then, I mean, I had the questions, so I kind of had a leg up. So I don't mind answering first if that will kind of give you a chance to think about what you would like to respond. Well, I think our first regional issue that I dealt with on council, my very first vote, was on moving forward on widening Highway 260. And of course, I made the stupid remark, well, this is a no-brainer, of course we're going to pass this. And then we went on to discuss it for like 35 minutes. But we eventually said yes. And we proceeded to work on that. And we've been working for the last 4 years on this issue to try to reestablish a dialogue with ADOT so that they will listen to us. I believe they would have done it years ago, but we were so fractious and fighting amongst each other that they just kind of said, you know, we're going to go somewhere where they're agreeing and where things are okay, and, you know, if you guys ever get it together, let us know. And I think we've got to that place. We just drafted a resolution, and we have asked every community in the Verde Valley to adopt that resolution, the same one, and they have. And so we're all on board together. Clarkdale, Cottonwood, Sedona, everyone in the Verde Valley. So I think ADOT's going to be looking at us a little bit harder now that we're on the same page. And I think before they were thinking about the businesses and the ingress and the egress. And my point of view is, I'm not on council to represent the businesses. I'm on council to represent the citizens. And the citizens are the ones who go back and forth. And they're the ones who need that road to be a 4-lane road so that we can safely travel back and forth to Cottonwood.
Thank you. Mr. Gordon?
Well, interagency cooperation between the cities and towns around here, I think, are really important in some instances, especially with tourism and certainly the water issues that plague the valley. But we also have to make sure that we don't lose our individuality here. We're a different community than Cottonwood, and we're a different community than Sedona. You know, they like the rural feel of Camp Verde, and we don't want to put in 10,000 subdivisions with houses right next to each other. That's just not what Camp Verde is. So I'm all for interagency cooperation, but we have to pick and choose which of these we're going to do and ignore some of the things that they may want us to do. But transportation and water issues and things like that are certainly to our advantage to work with them. That's about all I have.
Thank you. I do have some written questions, but I'd kind of like to be a little bit more informal and give you all a chance to just go ahead and ask your questions. So if you'd like to raise your hand and ask a question, feel free.
Can you hear us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
I say, can you hear us?
I can.
Yes.
I can.
I just wrote it out. I was wondering about the park there behind the ranger station that the town owns. Is there any chance that we're going to develop that anytime soon?
You want me to go first?
Not being on the council.
I'm sorry. Mr. Gordon, you can go first this time.
Not being on the council group, or I have attended some of the meetings, there has been some discussions about moving forward with development of that park. And in their capital improvement budget, I believe they have some monies set aside for that. Mm-hmm. So Robin can probably address that a little bit better than I can.
Go ahead. Yeah, I think we bought that for a reason, but we really haven't realized that reason yet. The reason is we've got kids out at Butler Park, and my kids did the same thing. They would be up till 10 o'clock at night playing Little League and have to go to school the next morning. It was a little difficult. So we have a very limited number of ball fields for these kids, and we have great athletic programs for them that they are joining. If you go to the Little League opening ceremony sometime, I had no idea we had that many kids in Camp Verde. I mean, it's just chock full of children, and they want to participate, and they want to do this. And so I think we need to try as best we can. Obviously, we don't have the money, come up with a ball field tomorrow, but I think we're moving ahead bit by bit. We need to have some infrastructure in there. Our sanitary district is right there. If our effluent water is up to code, we could use that for grass. Actually, right now, I think all we want to do at this point, we need to start somewhere. We need to get an entrance. We need to at least have a path, a walking path, a horse trail, something in there. We've got to get started. And, you know, we've done a lot of things the last 4 years, but that's kind of, I think, where we've kind of let down. But we really need the community. You need to come out and say this. We're not seeing those people come in and demand that. And that's what we need to do, to see those people and put the pressure on, because I'm behind it 100%. Let's get something done on our park that we own, free and clear. So,
Thank you. Did anyone else have any questions that they haven't already written down? Okay.
no.
Robin, if you were asked by someone visiting Camp Verde to describe your town, how would you describe Camp Verde?
You know, that's a kind of a hard one because we are a rare bird. We do have that independent spirit. We are different, and I feel that difference. You know, people say, well, why don't you live in Cottonwood? You got to drive there every day to teach school. Well, that would make sense, but I can't do it. I like Camp Verde. I like our independent spirit. I like our sense of culture and who we are. I grew up in Chino Valley, and in Chino Valley, we lost all of that. All of our old-timers left, our history left. There was no core to that community. And that's what I love about Camp Verde. We have that core. We have the fort. We have our old-timers. We have our history. When we talk about Camp Verde, I almost think of it as a person, as a tangible thing itself. And I don't know. We are a caring people. We'll get behind each other, but we'll argue all the way. But I love that part. So I don't know how to explain it.
Thank you. Brad?
Well, I grew up in a small town in northeast Oregon of about 10,000 people, and I didn't really know anything different. I moved down to the metropolitan Phoenix area in 1984 and lived there all that time. When my wife and I moved back up, I didn't realize how I missed, you know, I don't want to say slow pace, but, you know, I drive out in the morning and I might see 2 cars going to get the paper in the morning. And I think that's great. And the beautiful trees and the grass. And the people are just a lot more friendly too. It's just a slower pace than down in the valley, and it's the weather is much better. It's just a beautiful place to live. So.
Thank you. Brad, your next question is, what would be your top priority for Camp Verde?
Well, I'm very conservative financially and politically, not to spend more than we take in. I want to make sure that apparently the town has gone through some rough years. And we just need to make sure that we have our basic services up to snuff before we start spending lots and lots of money on other different things. I just think this is the time. They've got a little bit more money in their coffers from an added tax from a year or so ago. So they just need to make sure that their basics are good and move forward slowly so that they can pay for them and not get overextended or try to do too much.
Thank you. Robin?
I agree. I think that's about the first question we ask every time they come up with something is how much is it going to cost? And in fact, we've got our department heads so used to that they answer that question before they even come before us. They know that that question's going to come up. How much is it going to cost and how can we pay for it? So definitely one of our biggest challenges is the financial challenge. I believe Camp Verde's always had that problem. We've always had that financial problem where we had to make do. And I think we've done very well with that. In fact, I think the economic downturn brought everybody down to our level. Now they all know that, and we've been living with that since day one. So I think we really, we know how to tighten our belt. We know how to make do with what we have. And so, having said that, though, there are things we can do. Not huge things. We can't build the whole park, obviously, tomorrow. But we did paint all the buildings. We wanted to be proud of our town buildings. We painted those. We took all that plaster off the Historical Society. It's back to its original, which is beautiful. The Copper Canyon Trailhead was started. We hired a new manager, a new marshal, new librarian, which are all wonderful assets to our town and are bringing us up every day. We have the Verde Valley Archaeological Center. I think we're moving forward, but we're moving forward at an economically viable pace. So hopefully we'll keep moving in that direction.
Thank you. Robin, please share your thoughts on the new state sales tax proposal.
For sales tax proposal?
Yeah.
I've kind of read about it in the newspaper, but we got hit with this last meeting. And my remark was, the blood was draining out of my face. I couldn't believe it. I just was absolutely and completely shocked that the state wants to take over all of our sales tax, which means it goes down there first, and then who knows how much they want to give back to us of our money. I'm definitely not for it in any way, shape, or form. I think it's one of our employees tried to put a happy face on it, and I had to just state I'm very skeptical of why, number one, why do they want to do this? And number two, are we going to get back what we really put into it? And if we are, then why change it? I'm not in favor of that by any means.
Thank you. Brad, have you had a chance to formulate an opinion on this subject?
Well, basically, Robin covered it. There's not a whole lot that we can do. We've had, I believe, our manager was speaking with someone who was doing some political prodding, but, that's not much we can do about that. Some of the cities have gotten together to oppose this also, some of the bigger ones, Phoenix. And so that's about all we can do is, come together as a group of cities and say, we don't like this, but whether they'll listen to us or not at the state capitol, I don't know.
Yeah.
Brad, please discuss your thoughts on economic development for Camp Verde.
I'm sorry, I had an echo there.
I'm sorry, could you please discuss your thoughts on economic development for Camp Verde?
Economic development. Well, certainly don't want to grow in the wrong direction. This is a rural community, so people want to keep it that way. As I mentioned before, I don't think people want 20 subdivisions with houses right next to each other, but I think we have a really good opportunity to expand our tourism base with the archaeology center and the fort and the assets that we have. And our new director of economic development, he seems to be quite on the ball, and I'm looking forward to his proposals tomorrow morning, I believe.
Yes, tomorrow morning.
And so there are things that he would like to do, like the salt mine heritage site, and really punch up the tourism base. I think that's probably the best growth tool that we have, and I think some of the other industries will follow.
Thank you. Robin?
My turn.
Yep.
Okay, economic development, along with all the other things that we've been doing, we did hire a new economic development director. Now, I was not in on the committee process. We don't allow all of council. They'll pick a couple names out of the hat. They're the ones who do that, and that varies. I was not in on that, but I did hear from one council member that they were very impressed with his presentation, that he had factual, tangible things that we can do in the next 30 days, the next 90 days, the next year. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that tomorrow morning, I believe. So we're moving along with that. That's also a new position that we created. Before I was on council, we did not have an economic development director. So we're trying to have someone out there that can interface with other communities, with other businesses, etc. We also just rewrote, right when I got in, we began rewriting the planning and zoning codes. And I remember Mr. Martin, our manager, that was his first day, and I was having a meeting with those people, and he walked in and was in that meeting, and he's very well versed in community development. In fact, he was in charge of community development before in Colorado. So we just did that. We rewrote those codes purposely so that we do not hinder economic development, that we make it easier for people to come in, do the things that they're supposed to do in order to establish a business or whatever else they would like to do. I also think Fort Verde is very important in that, in supporting our fort and our other things that we have in the community as far as culture and history.
Thank you. My next question for you, along the same lines, is what are the types of businesses or industries that you feel will be well placed in Camp Verde, and how do you plan on attracting these? Or do you?
Which one of us?
We'll go to Robin again.
Can you just one more time for me, please?
Sure. What are the types of businesses or industry that you feel will be well placed in Camp Verde, and how do you plan on attracting these? If you do, of course.
Okay. I really think to keep the culture of Camp Verde, I was very impressed, and I really wasn't involved in the town government at that point, but I definitely had an opinion, and I read the newspapers when we did the bypass. I think that was the best thing that we did, because we kept our downtown. We have a downtown. It's beautiful. We can close off the streets. We can have a festival. And they put sidewalks in, and it's a beautiful downtown. So I think I really like the mom and pop businesses that we can attract in our downtown area. Now out on 260, that we own clear till Camp Verde, till to Steve Corey. We have annexed all of that. That's Camp Verde. If we could get some business development out there, that way we preserve our downtown core of mom and pop and the Archaeological Society, Fort Verde, et cetera. But we can also get some of the revenue from the other bigger store businesses on 260. We have the courthouse that was built out there. That is huge. The jail system is out there. Now we have Bell's bonds. Now we have the gun, shooting range. I think that's just going to bring more and more. I think those shooting range people are going to want a place to eat, and they don't want to go into to where the freeway is. I think we can see some things happening, and Out of Africa's there. So I think it's growing there, and I think we're going to continue to see growth there.
Thank you. Mr. Gordon?
It's a little bit difficult to try to attract large companies. Number one, they don't have the surrounding demographics to support something like a Walmart or anything like that, and I'm not sure if that's the type of thing that we want. Small wholesale businesses may be able to be utilized to bring them in. However, certainly our being able to provide them services is kind of a drawback, I think, for some of these larger companies if we can't secure them what they need. And I am for taking over the sewage system so that basically we have control of it and being able to expand that in the future so that when a business comes to town, we can say, yes, we can provide you this and this and this, and that would be included. As I said before, I think that our tourism is probably in the next 10 or 15 years going to be a larger part of that. And I think some of the smaller mom and pop businesses will be attracted to our town because of that. And maybe we'll have a better heritage center down the main street than we've got right now with all the shops filled.
Okay.
Can I add something too?
Of course.
We just made the downtown area an entertainment district. So that's going to help also some of our smaller businesses and our restaurants, wine tastings, et cetera, to locate in our downtown.
Thank you. Brad, Cottonwood and Sedona have public transport or public transit to help people get around without a vehicle. Do you think Camp Verde should have a transit program or work to expand a regional one?
Well, if we can work with the Indian Reservation, they have basically asked us about that, I believe. Is that right? And it'd be nice to have a bus route that's going to and from, but it's a matter of cost. Bus lines are usually not cost effective, and I don't think that we can afford it at this point in time unless we do some sharing with people like maybe Cottonwood, Sedona, and the Indian Reservation. But that's a big expenditure, and it's not a moneymaker, it's a money drain. So I would have to really look at the numbers before I would be for that type of thing.
Thank you. Robin?
Yeah, he's right. I believe we looked into this, and I think to do this would have cost us our entire budget. That means nothing else. No marshals, no nothing. I mean, it's an incredible cost. So when we went to an intergovernmental meeting at the Yavapai Apache Nation, it's been a couple months back, they showed us that they're working on a plan for transit. They want to get, they're kind of split too. They have some people in Clarkdale, they have some here, and how to get them back and forth. And so we did discuss with them. They were going to, I believe, bring it to the out overlook acres. And we said, yeah, that's great, but how about bringing it into the the casino? Maybe our people could meet there and get on the bus, or bashes. So we're trying to work with them in order to get this accomplished for our own people. It's a huge need. I mean, 9/10 of our doctor's offices are over there. The hospital's over there. I have 2 neighbors who go to dialysis, 2 and 3 times a week, and they have to go all the way over there. And so the need is definitely there. And if we can persuade them that we have enough riders that it would make it more profitable for them to work with us, then I think we can get it done. So I'm hopeful.
Thank you. Robin, the next question is, do you support a community park?
Well, I answered that, yes. Yes, I do. I was not on council at that point when they bought the community park, when they decided to purchase it, but I did support it. We need a community park. It's been a need for the last 20 years or more. When we incorporated it was a need, and right now we're trying to make Butler Park do, and it's just not quite enough at all. So yes, I do, and as I said before, I think we need to start on what we can do. We can do some infrastructure, we can get some entrances, we can get some trails going. Then we can start talking about all the other things that we need, but definitely a ballpark would be one of the primary things that I would like to see, but we're talking about something like $300,000 for a ballpark. So, but I think now we can at least get people where they can park their car, if they want to exercise, they can run up the trail or take their horse out there and ride. So I think we need to get started so that eventually we can use that park. It's land wasted right now that we own, so we need to use it.
Brad, what's your feeling on a community park?
Well, I think that since we have the land and there is a need, we probably should move forward with the park. It all depends on cost and how we can do it. I believe there is like $800,000 in the 5-year plan for that in the capital improvement budget, but I don't think all that will go toward that park. It just depends on what the priorities are at that point in time and how much money we have. So, yes, I think the park is in long-term plans of the town and will be built at some point in time, but I can't say exactly when. But as Robin said, we probably ought to start putting some infrastructure things together and a basic overall plan of what it's supposed to look like in the end, so that the money that you put into it is not wasted.
Brad, I'm not sure whether you would know the answer to this or not. Describe the most important issue that Camp Verde and the Yavapai Apache Nation is or should be working on together.
I don't really know that answer.
Okay. Robin?
Well, of course, transportation, which I've already covered. The other thing is we do partner with them. They have monies that they're required to distribute to the different communities, and I believe our mayor has made very good presentations towards them, and we were able to get quite a bit of money for our pool. Our pool costs an incredible amount of money to run and maintain. In fact, we're right in the process of spending almost $200,000. Is that right, Bob? 100,000. 95. Yeah, I knew it was okay. Close to $100,000 to resurface the pool and kind of bring it up to standards, which we have to do. I mean, we just have to. So it's an incredible amount of money, and they seem to step up and help us with that every year. There's other things that we work with them on, and we always want to maintain a good relationship. As Bob said, I think at one point there was kind of some fractious things going on between them, but I think that's been resolved. They know that we want to work together with them. They are part of our community. We need to recognize that and embrace them, and just bring them in and let them know what we're doing and what they think and how they can help.
Thank you. Brad, I'll ask you, what kind of housing growth do you think should be considered?
Well, they have, the general plan has an overlay already of what can be put in, and basically I rather like what I've seen, because they keep the rural 1 acre and above down below the ditches and even further out. You know, I'd hate to see 50 houses per acre or something like that in our rural community. So there are places up on the hills that we can put larger subdivisions if that was something that the market would stand. But as I say, the overlay from the zoning seems pretty decent to me. We'd like to go over it with a fine-tooth comb, but for now, I think it looks pretty good. We are going to grow. I mean, this is basically an unfound jewel from the valley, and we will grow, and people aren't going to probably like that much, but you know, it's inevitable. We're going to have to deal with that growth. I just don't want to see it become another Gilbert that I came from, you know, with too many houses per acre in the wrong places. So.
Okay, Robin?
Can you, again, please?
Yes, what kind of housing growth do you think should be considered?
Oh, okay. I think in the past we've had a problem with that. We have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on stormwater because of the cliffs and the views. That was, I don't know if you've been up there, but you can't have a car park on the street because they're so small. I don't know what you do if you have the family over for Thanksgiving. I mean, really, where do they park? I don't know. So things have happened in the past that hopefully will not happen in the future. I remember, I also would like, if we were doing that, to be able to provide sewer. I mean, if we're going to have another housing development, it would be great if we could just provide sewer and have that right when they come in. If we own that, maybe we could work toward that. The other thing is, we had the Harvard development right next to Bash's, you know, that big field out there. There was a plan for that, and it was okayed by everyone, and it was a nightmare. You talk to the P&Z people over there, it gave them nightmares because the streets were too narrow. Emergency vehicles would have had a hard time getting in there. You couldn't turn two cars in. It was a nightmare, and everyone approved it. Thank you, Arizona Republic. I'm reading the Arizona Republic one day. They were reverting developments back to acreage if nothing was done within 10 years. Went to the P&Z. Said, has anything been done with this Harvard development past 10 years? They said no. Said, let's revert this back to acreage. Now, I'm not saying there won't be any houses there, but the next time they want to put houses there, they're going to have to go through our P&Z, and they're going to have to go through a council who is not going to give them every single little thing they want so that they can cut costs. They leave town, we're stuck with it. They dedicate the roads to the town, and then we're stuck with it. So I'm grateful that we were able to move that back to acreage. They want to do something with that, fine. They're going to have to go through that planning process all over again, and then we can say yay or nay.
Thank you. Robin, I have a final question for you. How can the town afford to take over the sanitary district? And are either of you in favor of the takeover?
I am the liaison to the sanitary district, and first off, I have to give kudos to the staff of the sanitary district and to the board. At one time, we were having meetings that were shouting matches, and I was part of those meetings. I am in the sanitary district, paying those taxes for the past 30 years. There is no plan, not one, for me to have sanitary service. It's my donation. That's what I call it. My donation to Camp Verde, and I'm happy to do it. But having said that, we have changed. We recalled people. We had an election. We have wonderful people now who are on our sanitary district board, who are knowledgeable, who know what they're doing. But how long can we depend on these people and put upon them that burden as volunteers? I know of 2 members who have deliberately moved out of the district so they could get off the board. And who do we replace them with? You know, I'm a willing body. I would do it, but I don't know anything about running a sanitary district. So my fear is that these people, as they grow older, will either retire, move out of the district, say my health will not let me do it anymore, and we need to have qualified people in there, and that's what the town will do. They will hire, they will take over the management, and then we know that it's always run correctly, the way that it should be. So I thank those people who are on the sanitary district for their service, but I think that they've done their job, and now it's time for the town to step up and take over the sanitary district, which is another key to our economic development.
Thank you. Brad?
As I understand it, the sewer district that we take over would be just another department of the town, and they operate basically in a budget all of their own, just like the street department does. And if we had a water company, they would do the same. I don't think it's going to really add a whole lot of cost any more than what the town already provides to the sewer district. And plus we would have total control over what is expanded and what services we provide and how much we charge for that service. So I really am for taking over the sewer district. I think it's just one of the basic services that is expected of a town when you pay your taxes.
Thank you. I think at this point we could go to our closing statements, and I'll give you up to 3 minutes, and let's start with you this time, Brad.
Oh, well,
unless you want to pass it on to Robin. I'm not picky.
Well, I feel lucky to be in this community, and I'd like to share my experiences. As I say, I owned a surveying and engineering firm, so I'm very familiar with development issues. The one that Robin said should never have occurred, and had they been in one of the cities or counties down in the valley, it never would have occurred that way because they're very strict. And we have already updated our specifications, and so hopefully that type of thing will never happen again. Anyhow, I'm glad to be here, and I hope to provide a service for the community.
Thank you. Robin?
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to, have the citizens come. These are many of the citizens that come to our council meetings as well. They're interested and they know what's going on. I would hope that people who ask you questions, that now you'll be able to, you'll know what to say to them, what to tell them, because you've been here and been to our meetings. Or listen, you can also listen to them over the, on the computer. You can listen to audios, which I do if I miss a meeting. I listen to the audio. So I'm really grateful that I've had the opportunity to serve the community. It isn't easy, but for me it's incredibly fulfilling and rewarding to be able to help our citizens have the benefits of a town government. And I hope the citizens remember that all of us sitting up on council, we're no different from many of the rest of you. We shop at Bash's, we do all of these things, and we have to abide by the very things that we put in place. So we're just there to try to make those decisions that are the best for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the candidates very much for their insightful comments and answering our questions. I'd like to thank our audience for your participation. I'd like to thank Yavapai Broadcasting for your continued support of our efforts. I'd like to thank Richard Kiesel for keeping time for us and Robin Prudhomme Bauer for organizing this forum. I want to point out that the forum is also available online at www.verdevalleytv.com/features.html, and if you need to see that in writing, I'll show it to you. This is a vote by mail election, and ballots are due by Tuesday, March 12th. Thank you. Have a good evening.